Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. So, we're here in midsummer, otherwise known as May. And when I jumped in here, I was a little worried that the barley had reached ready to harvest, but it's still growing. When I measured it, it's at 83%. I do have some mayoral duties to attend to first. We've got field 93 that I think I mentioned was up for sale. And I need to go and take a peek at it and get it plowed up. So yeah, there is an active bid out on the field right now, which definitely requires or lends some more urgency to this, because it's going to come due, I think, overnight tomorrow or sometime tomorrow for sure. So in any event, I just don't want to suddenly run into an issue where I can't take care of this, so I'm going to do this first and get that done. So I'll pop up the mini map just so you can see. So you can see field 93 is just down the road here from my farm. And yes, it is Wild Moose who's bid on it. Okay, I was wondering, but yes, we do have our hemp starting to sprout. So we will definitely then jump in and do herbicide after I do the field work here. But yeah, this is field 92. And field 93 is the one that is attached to this little bit of land and farmhouse as well. So I'll pop up here. And for the most part, I think it's just some things near the north end where he's overrun a bit. But it's definitely a natural fit for him with where he's at to go ahead and just add this to his holdings. You know, and just as with anyone, it's, you know, kind of up to all of us to figure out what works for, you know, the amount of work we can handle. I'm amazed he can pull all this off, because frankly for me, the land he's got would be far, far too much. But it seems to work for him, and he's looking to add to it. So just going to clear up these areas that have weeds, because the intent is to make sure that the fields are ready to be delivered into people's hands and used immediately without any kind of stuff left on them. And so it's part of my job as mayor on the server to go ahead and make sure that as parcels are coming up for auction, that they are ready to go. And really it looks like, because you can kind of see with that yet lighter shading that appears, it just basically looks like, yeah, the north end of the, so you can see further out past, I think, what everyone lovingly calls the ring of death, where you can't really see the field appropriately. That white-ish area is showing textures on the field that basically are considered growing or in some state of growth, which is why you'll see weeds sprout here. You know, but at this point, obviously, if he rolls over into the field after this and he owns it, it's his field. But then obviously we have the possibility of him going across the way from field 91 and drifting across the street, as I've done on a couple of the fields across from me, that once again, when they come up, you know, I've got cleanup to do. So as I said, you know, on the one hand, like, I created my own work there because I was the one that did this, but in his work on field 94, there's been a little bit of sloppiness, and it's bled over into field 93, and that's where the goal is to try to be careful, but the reality is, you know, folks are in a hurry, as you've seen me do as well, or you're just doing it for hours on end, and it gets a little mind-numbing, and you stop paying attention, or you know, flat out doze off while your tractor's moving down the field. Whoops. Well, that wasn't the part of the plan. To start folding it, I hit the wrong key. There we go. I'll just do this one more pass just to be sure that we've really hit every piece. I'm not seeing anything ahead of me that indicates there's anything more. I don't like that corner, though. I guess I'll have to see. No, I did get that, so I'm not sure why it shows that way, but in any event, maybe I'll turn and just run over that one more time, just to be sure. And then we'll be all set. Alright, so I'll just kind of buzz down the field here, make sure I see nothing else that jumps out that needs to be touched up. But I think at this point the field is ready to be delivered to its new owner so that they can begin whatever they want to do with it as soon as possible and not have to even waste the 5 or 10 minutes I just did plowing to clean things up. And yes, you know, I would be able to use the FSN equipment to do that work, but given how close this was to my farm and how little I expected to have to be able to do, you know, I didn't do that. So here, clearly, I'm assuming, just based on, you know, kind of the terrain leveling, the darkness, that there were buildings here, so I'm assuming at some point a farm manager had called this corner home. You know, but once again, Wild Moose can plow over that if he wants to expand his field a little bit. If he doesn't need that space, he can leave it. Obviously, it's up to him once he takes over. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this plow put away. At this point, I've used it at a low enough rate. I'm not going to repair and do everything. I'm just going to go ahead and park this right now. We'll worry about it when we use it in earnest next time. But, you know, it gives you an idea. I'm at 0.5%. in usage on the plow and the tractor, so that was one of the reasons I just felt, you know, it wasn't worth popping all the way over to the store. It looks like we've got some dead zones in the barley. I can see it. So what I was thinking was maybe an oat, not oat specific. I mean, I knew it can happen with other crops, but it just seemed very prevalent with the oats, where I hadn't really seen it with rye. Obviously, we've got similar type traits with barley. We'll just see how significant they get before everything's done, and you know, maybe at this point there is ungerminated or whatever withered you want to call them because they don't really show up on the map as anything in particular that I recall. And we'll take a quick look, I guess, just so I understand in my curiosity too. But yeah, if I'm looking at the growth, I guess they do show withered. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few splotches around. But that is, my understanding, is just part of seasons and kind of what happens. So we're not seeing that yet in the hemp, and we may not see it in the hemp. Alright, so at this point, I've got to jump in my other tractor, which is there. I was circling around thinking, where is it? But now I do recall I had plugged everything in, and amazingly, it's all stayed connected, even though it's the next day and server's gone through the overnight cycle and so forth. So, alright, the way that truck is, I can't get in that way, so I'm gonna head up here. Although I obviously can roll into the field now that I say that. You know, obviously I'm going to be running through the field with this sprayer, so I was worried about damaging my crop, but yeah, I can just pull up near this and reload here. Alright, so I'm going to head over this way. I'm going to start unfolding. And we're going to run up the edge, and we're going to get these fields treated. And that is the work for today on the farm. Alright, so again, ran past it a bit because I'm trying to set my line. Shoot. Trying to turn around, but maybe I'll just turn around in the field, I guess, and then come back out here in a bit. So let me get the line, turn that, and as I figured, it's not really lined up. Hopefully I can do a better job turning here than before. Come on. Now too far. So tried to position it on where I was, but that didn't work. Now if I do that, now it's too far the other way, so I'm going to stop trying that, and I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way and position it manually. Alright. So we'll get here to the line so that when we snap, it can go where it needs to. And we'll get going down this field and getting rid of the weeds. So here we go. So yeah, this has definitely been one of those chores that it's not too bad from a time perspective. I think it's, going to take me a couple hours probably to get all the fields done, but you can obviously see the weeds popping up, the green amongst the barley that's now starting to turn a little bit brown for harvest. We are lined up at the edge of the field, so sometimes when the crop is bigger like this, you start to wonder, am I getting it all? And second guess yourself, so just double checking there that we don't have an uneven field edge here, which I was pretty sure we did not, because that was one of the first things I did, similar to the winter work I did on 97, with finally straightening that one edge out, was go through and get that done on the fields that I got early on. But obviously for fields like 85, 86, I've chosen not to do that. just because there's not necessarily a reason to worry about it. For one thing, 86 along the road is actually pretty straight. It might actually be perfectly straight. So there's not really a reason to play with it there. Then the two fields come up against each other. But once again, I think those are pretty straight edges. And then obviously the far west side of field, or far east side of field 85 is going along the river. And so either way, it's going to be angled, and there's not really anything better with a certain angle than what we have there with a little bit of variation. And honestly, the way that field sits right now, we've probably maximized the space without butting up right against the river and making it even more of a challenge and or requiring a headland with every type of implement to work that field. So yeah, once I get up here, I'm once again going to reposition and run myself a top pass here so that I can turn a little more freely, knowing that part of the issue here will be I can't see what has been sprayed, and so I'm likely to be duplicating it a bit, but I kind of make that mental estimate of I think I'm close enough to the edge of the field, and then I can start my turn, because certainly going into the grass there and just starting would require me to continually reverse and back out, because there's no way with this sprayer extended to not get hung up in the trees, as I'm sure you can tell just by looking at this now. It's about half the width between the edge of the field and the edge of the trees. Maybe a little more now where the tree line backed off a bit, but if my front end is off and I'm turning, obviously I'm even further off the field. So short story is, this just makes it easier. But yeah, even though this is a 7-mile-per-hour piece of equipment, because of the working width, it just goes pretty quickly. Because as you can see, we're +7 on the row counter. Which means we've got basically 8 rows. We've already done one. Coming back to do the second one, and we'll be done before we know it. Yeah, see, and I probably could have waited till about now, but once again, the few liters of herbicide, I just find it better to make sure it's covered rather than miss things and then either feel I need to go touch it up, and then I probably ultimately use more because I'm going back for small pieces and still overspraying some to just make sure I get everything. Or I leave it and that little piece of the field loses yield, which there's no reason it needs to do that, because it's not as if we're strapped for cash on Misty Hills. So you can see out in the distance, per what I was doing with the Mayoral, I've made a few issues over the years at some point, and I've run into that field, and you can see that lighter set of passes where clearly something happened. Could have been a harvester, could have been a planter. It likely wasn't a planter, or we'd have a lot of material there withering, because it normally wouldn't let me go harvest over there, because it would tell me it wasn't my land, even though it lets you plant and whatever. But once those fields come up, I'll touch those up just like anything else, and more than likely the only purchaser of those would be me if I chose to do that. And I don't know, I'm starting to lean a little bit more to, if they do come up, I will go ahead and buy them, just because I'll have them. I just don't honestly know if I'll realistically be able to work every field then in the farm, because I'm pressed as it is now. So I don't need them, but I have the extra money, and they would nicely square off my land holdings. So it just feels like the thing to do, but you can see I've got, you know, some weeds over there in those tracks that I had overrun. Alright, so we've got this pass, and then the next one we'll have to play a little bit of tractor gymnastics with to get around the trees in the pond and so forth as we come down, and then it'll be time to do that bottom pass here along the edge of my yard. But, you know, at this point, this pass, certainly the next pass, is basically getting us to the halfway point of this field. So, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and flip on over to the time lapse to likely get the rest of this, or certainly most of this, done. Again, I've got all 7 fields to put herbicide on, so there's going to be a good amount of video either way. I may choose to edit it differently, but right now I'm just going to leave things recording so that I can give you a time lapse, and we'll go from there, and I'll see you in a bit. I finished up on the last field here, so we've got every field sprayed for weeds at this point. Most of them were done during the day, but I had this last one and just trying to get it done before midnight so that tomorrow everything will be good to go and I don't have anything off cycle again. But we're in pretty good shape. I'm actually going to go ahead and top this off. That way I don't have to do that next time. I haven't been using this to spray anything but herbicides, so while I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and fill it. So we've got about, I guess I drifted a little too far. Got about 18,000 left, so I filled the herbicide from the tanker when I was down at my fields to the south, but for both of the fields here, just went ahead and filled directly from the silo. So that actually has been working out pretty well, where I can just continue to drive back to the tanker at the storage shed and fill the herbicide directly from there. Now I did have to run the tanker back up and refill it because I did empty it, I think just after the first field, so did have to go and replenish that supply, but other than that everything was in good shape. So I'll likely have the barley ready to harvest tomorrow, as long as I can get to it. So we'll see how that all goes. I may go ahead and do some baling. Just still not sure. I guess I'm going to have to see what it feels like tomorrow and what I see things look like as far as time I can dedicate to it. So I'd like to do that at some point in one of the next cycles, but I may just have to skip this time based on the limitations I have, because it's a lot easier to do baling if it falls on a weekend when I know if I need to, I can expand the time I spend online. But the server's a little bit behind of real time, so it's actually already been after 11 p.m. here when I started to begin with. Before I even started doing the work on Field 98, so we're likely coming up on midnight in real time, but good news is at least this is done, and can mark another thing off the list for year 76. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning up. I think I got myself stuck here. Yeah, I did. Well, alright. Let me back up. I think I'm just a little messed up, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get everything cleaned up, and then I will put stuff away. But at this point, I'm going to let you guys go, and I will see you next time.